JASMY, QUANT and Hbar are flashing incredible signals that they are about to break towards the upside in a big way. This is not just a hype video, guys. I've been reading the charts and there's some very simple things I want to take you through on the charts that are going to help you do your own price analysis using free tools. And it's so worth it because you're then going to be understanding exactly when you can buy and sell, and it's going to stop you acting emotionally and irrationally like every other crypto investor does out there pretty much. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit subscribe, let's get into today's video. Now I'm sure you've watched your fair share of Bitcoin videos and Ethereum videos, and you've seen all these kind of weird and wacky chart patterns before. This is not going to be a lesson to identify specific chart patterns, but all that basically happens within any chart pattern, may it be like this, whether it be like this, or whatever it is, usually you can see that the price goes from a broad range of movement to a narrow range of movement. Now what that basically shows us is that the price is moving from an area of imbalance to an area of balance, because the price is moving a lot because it's not at the right value. So here you can see it was too expensive, overvalued, it then fell to a point where it was undervalued and then returned. And when you get the kind of like areas in the middle where it can't really make up its mind, it usually means the price is pretty balanced. But what happens once we get into these zones is very important, because ultimately the price is getting contracted into a point at which it must make a decision. And the longer the time spent in that pattern, the more explosive the breakout's going to be. Quant has been in this pattern since the 20th of October last year. And you can see the price is getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And now it's coming up against this top line of resistance. How do I know it's going to break towards the upside? I'm going to show you something right now that no one really talks about on crypto videos. They do on Forex, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, I often talk about this in my Telegram group, which is free and linked down below. Now, what I want to do is identify who has been buying this crypto at what point. Now, big money and small money are different things. You and I represent small money. We don't have the power necessarily to move billion-dollar markets, at least not on our own, but the banks and institutions do. And they'll leave us some breadcrumbs telling us where they've been buying and when they will be buying there again. And the easiest way to find it is to look for the big candles towards the upside. Now here, this is tradingview.com, absolutely free tool to use. I can see a lot of buying went on here. So what I can do is I can identify where it dipped and then it started to rally. And then this ultimately is my buy zone. And what I would do is I can then just draw a rectangle, and I'm talking roughly, it doesn't have to be massively accurate, and I can drag it across. And lo and behold, we know the big money was buying in here because it pushed the market cap up massively. We then see the price start to sell off again. It returns into the buy zone. What happens in that buy zone? Bang, you get another massive candle out of there. This candle dipped all the way down, and in the space of a day, it went back up 12%. It's obvious, guys. This is a zone at which Quant is getting bought at. We then know that it's going to get bought up again when it hits this zone. More than likely. It's not a 100% game. Nothing in trading ever is. It's a game of probability and stacking the odds in your favor. Order block. You can use this in conjunction with a descending pattern, whatever you want to call it, like this. You can see it doesn't break that line every time. It hits our order block. And then we get into this perfect area here where we can pull the trigger. And by now, yeah, we're waiting for Quant to have a breakout, but we're already up 9% if you've been buying in that area down there. And say you're here right now and it hasn't even got back in the box, you can right click and you can add an alert. It will then ping up on your phone when Quant hits that zone, and then you can go and pull the trigger without any emotional upset or anything like that. So where is Quant going to go? Well, let's have a look from this chart pattern. Now, these again are estimations on chart patterns, guys. But what we do is we take the height of this triangle and then we drag it across to a potential breakout position, which I would assume would be around there. And that would take us up a whopping 85%. Drawing a horizontal line on the chart, you can see it's just shy of that high before. I realistically think it is going to get back up to that high very quickly. Already we can see that it's getting compressed. It's found strength again in the order block, is retesting the upper trend line now. We're about to see a push. Jumping across to JASMY, we're going to look at some different patterns because JASMY is not the same. Everything is following a different pattern. But don't worry, we can still use very similar concepts to what I've just talked about. Now remember, when we're at the bottom of the market, the price is going to continue to creep down in a downtrend. Downtrend has lower highs. So each of these is a high, but it's lower than the last one. Lower highs equals downtrend. Easy. But at some point, a downtrend must shift into an uptrend. And this is characteristic of a change in market character. So all you need to do is identify the tops, draw yourself a line on the tops, and then see what happens, because eventually it's going to have to break that line. When we get a break of that line, it's no guarantee it's going to carry on forever. But what you can see here happening with JASMY is time and time again, this is a classic. It hits the line, it's rejected off, then it has another crack, then it usually gets through on the second time, which is why I'm pretty sure in the next day or two, JASMY's going to break towards the upside. Again, can we see a similar pattern? Yeah, but we can draw this line across the bottom, and it does show that we are getting constricted into a certain area. Now, have we got an order block or something going on with JASMY that we can pay attention to? Now, what you can see is a big push here, and then we get a sell into an area, and then it pushes aggressively again. You can see this push. So what we can do is we can draw our candle across the height of the previous candle. This little one in here, this little cross, right? Now we get this first one that comes in and then pumps out of it. You can see now we have our confirmation. We don't want to do this on the first time we hit. This is the first time. You want to wait for the second time. And this is what I really want you to pay attention to. This is an essential part because 99% of these crypto YouTubers who are talking about Bitcoin analysis get it wrong. What they talk about is lines of support and resistance. And if it breaks this line, it will go here. And if it breaks that line, it will go there. You may notice that I draw boxes. There's no guarantee. Just because it broke this low, you can see it broke below here. Everyone would have been diving into a sell here. Now, I want to tell you a sneaky trick. And this is what many people on Wall Street and the big banks have been doing for years and years. And they will have a portion of cash sat around trying to shake the market into the opposite direction. So what they'll do is they'll put in a big sell here. It will trigger a load of other sells into big buy orders. This means they get to fill all their orders here without pushing the price up too quickly. It's immoral, but it happens. And it's a good indicator here that now we're going to be breaking higher because this was our area. This under here represents the liquidity. Liquidity is what they need to go up. So we've got our order block. We can see the collection of liquidity. And now JASMY, along with Quant, is now approaching this descending line. Where does this descending line break to? Again, we can take the height of our triangle, which would be about this. And we would see a break from JASMY. And this break from JASMY would take us approximately 81% towards the upside. But it's more crucial than that, guys. Remember what I said about downtrends and bear market downtrends with lower highs. This has the potential, if it can break above here, to put in a higher high. That's a huge shift in momentum, moving from bear market to bull market. So if I was in JASMY up until this point, 267%, so 2.6x, maybe I would be prepared to take some profits there, because if we then got a pullback and dropped like 20 or 30%, then I could load up on more JASMY with that money I've just bought and wait for the next leg up. Yeah, charts don't move up in a straight line, they leg up, and then we can use these patterns to identify the next breaks. Now the crowd favorite Hbar, and I made a video on Hbar the other day talking about why I changed my mind about Hbar and why I've been investing in it more recently. Hbar, again, not different from the other two that we've looked at. I do anticipate a fairly big break coming very shortly. We'll look at the pattern that's on Hbar. It's a different pattern, but it follows a similar concept. So what was it that we had to do first? We need to identify a downtrend. Can we do it with Hbar? I get my trend line, I draw roughly somewhere up here, guys. You might notice that I don't press here, I don't press here, somewhere in that area. I then drag it across, and yeah, we get like wicks here, but we get a nice solid stop here, ties it all together. Hbar gets squeezed down. And here is another pattern that you can see. A nice descending triangle. What do we got? The price goes from higher, puts in lower highs. This is our downtrend. And you can see right now we're identifying that we might be approaching the area of breakout. Again, it's moved from a large range to a tightening range, which means it builds up pressure. It's like squeezing a tube of toothpaste with a lid on. Eventually that lid has to come off and then, you know, toothpaste goes everywhere. But remember, we need to do this in conjunction with those buy zones. How did we identify buy zones? We look for the big candles. Now I can see a big candle here. I can see two very big candles here. Notice the difference between these candles here and these ones down here. Yeah, there is obviously buying pressure coming in at this area, but I would actually anticipate that this identifies our buy zone very clearly. And we can see that before these pushes, we saw a bit of up and down motion. Now we're going to put a box around the sort of the base of this candle area, and then we're going to drag it out and drag it across. Now what we can see here is slightly different from the ones I've already showed you, because Hbar didn't come back as aggressively into this buy zone. We got one bounce here, and then what you can see is we then failed to continue lower here. Now, what you might have said is when we were getting all this indecision here, that maybe you would go back in, and obviously it does line up as well with the bottoms here. So maybe this box could be a little bit higher, but the method I'm using to identify these buy zones wouldn't really allow me. What we can do is go into a 4-hour time frame, and then that gives me a bit more of a clearer idea of what the buy zone would have looked like. And I would have maybe drawn this pullback, these two white candles here. I draw my box around those, and then lo and behold, if we came back out, then you would see that we touched this box a few times. But just for now, let's stick with this daily chart pattern. Now, Hbar, as we know, is a very popular crypto, but you know, the chart prices and everything are not really showing the amount of interest that's going on in this particular coin right now. However, I do believe we will be getting a break at some point soon. This is how we take the height of this descending triangle. We take from the height there, and then we go from a potential breakout position. And then we can see that Hbar would go from current levels a whopping 62% up. In the shorter period of time then, Quant, Hbar, JASMY all looking really solid, but you've still got insane upside potential. Look at Hbar, back to the top is like an 8.5x. And if you watched my videos before, you'll understand that I think Hbar has the power to go up to $1, maybe even $2 or $3 if things go really insane. JASMY, again, you're looking at like a 30x, maybe even a 50x if things go really well. And Quant as well, I see at least a 15 to 20x in. Don't just outsource this work to other people, okay? The more you understand about when and where to buy, life becomes much less stressful. And while a lot of crypto does depend a bit on the type of project and how good the project is and the marketing and stuff, ultimately, time and time again, the most reliable place to be looking for price predictions is chart analysis. But guys, I think there is some very exciting stuff on the horizon for Quant, JASMY, and Hbar. Let me know down below in the comments if you hold any of those. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Get into my Telegram if you want to learn more about these cryptocurrencies as well as how to trade them. Have a great day, guys. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.